Most of us are harder on ourselves than other people are. I would say that's a common blind spot for clients as well. Don't be so hard on yourself. Put yourself in a position where you can learn a different way of thinking and build upon your talents and your experiences and your competencies, and let's go to a better place together.
Hello and welcome to the Clear Voice, brought to you by Clear Career Professionals. I'm your host, James Groom. This week, we have a special guest. He comes from the private sector as far as his work experience, but he has worked with the public sector in the past and would like to continue doing that. This week, we have Bobby Quinten, who's a certified coach, an executive leadership development professional who helps leaders strengthen culture, performance, and communication through his firm To a Better Place Executive Coaching. He has led training and talent initiatives for many major organizations and coached clients ranging from municipal departments to federal agencies. Bobby is the immediate past governor of the Texas-Oklahoma district of the Kiwanis International and holds coaching credentials from the International Coaching Federation, Gallup as a certified strengths coach, and EQI 2.0 emotional intelligence certified coach. Bobby, welcome to the show and thank you for being on.
James, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited. I met Bobby through Kiwanis. Before he was the governor, he ran the area that we were in, and he also ran I believe you were the chapter president in Mansfield. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to dedicate your time to helping others grow their leadership skills?
Sure. I became a certified coach in 2018. It was a dream that I had had for several years. I spent most of my adult career in corporate America, working primarily with leadership development, human resources training, also did safety training, sales training, customer service training. At some point, probably about 5 years prior to 2018, I just got the itch to take everything I've learned and all of my experiences and see what I could do to help leaders to grow. And so, by the miracle of tuition reimbursement, I was able to go back to college. I went to the University of Texas at Dallas and received my graduate certificate in executive and professional coaching, and then my credentials from the International Coaching Federation, which you mentioned. And most of the coaching that I did for the first 4 or 5 years as a certified coach was internal. I was working at that time for Greyhound Bus Company, and I did a lot of internal coaching there. Greyhound was purchased, and I decided that that was a good time for me to go out on my own. And so I established my practice, To a Better Place Executive Coaching. I am a sole proprietor. What I love about it, James, is I get to do what I love to do every day. I work with leaders to help them with their challenges. And it's not just based on my own experience, but we explore what they want to do, what their options are, how they want to grow, what is their better place. And that has proven to be an absolute joy for me to work with folks like that. It's my passion, and I'm blessed every day to do it.
Yeah, I'm sure you've worked with so many various sectors and people, and I'm sure different companies. So that's not a one size fits all. You're really having to go in there and custom fit what makes the person get to that next level.
It is. And I work with the client to do that because I don't know what the client does every day. I don't understand the environment they work in, the job they do on a day-to-day basis. They know they're the subject matter expert on themselves. I come in and I explore with them. I give them space to get outside of the whirlwind for an hour and to talk about their desires, their challenges, their ideas, their concerns. And that allows us to put together action plans to help them get a little further down the road to what they want to do and where they need to be, where their teams need to be. So you're right. Every situation, case by case, is different. I've worked with folks in PayPal. I've worked with folks in the federal government, city of Mansfield. I've worked with nonprofits. What I have found, James, is that no matter what organization, people are people, and a lot of the challenges are the same. And so we're able to put together coaching plans that allow them to really progress towards where they want to be in the next several months.
As you're coming up in corporate America, what really influenced your leadership style?
I think that it was primarily the leaders that I had. There are two kinds of leaders in corporate America, and in other organizations too, and that is the leader that we really want to be a role model. Who is our role model? What we want to make ourselves like. And then there's the leader that we say, I'm never going to be like that. I want to be different from this. I was blessed to have leaders who showed me what true leadership is all about. Frankly, leadership development isn't just a book. It's not just a course. It's not just a video. It's not just a TED talk. It's being around leaders who do it right. They're not perfect, but you learn from them how to inspire people, how to manage performance, how to treat people the way they need to be treated so that they're motivated to do their best job every day. I was blessed to have that. So I've really grown from their leadership. And I guess you might say I'm paying it forward today as an executive coach and a leader myself.
Bobby, can you tell us what somebody might be able to learn from a bad leader?
Sure. An example that I use all the time is that you can be, as a leader, you can be the smartest person in the room. But for example, if your emotional intelligence is not well balanced, then you lose control of your emotions at times and you treat people in ways that shouldn't be treated and you make impulsive decisions. Meetings don't go very well. People may respect your intelligence, but they don't necessarily respect you and don't feel respected. I've learned, for example, from different leaders that mastering your emotions is absolutely critical to being a strong leader. It doesn't mean that you don't occasionally they don't see you upset or something like that. Everything we're imperfect, we're human, that happens, but emotional intelligence is very important. So I've strove to really learn about emotional intelligence and to role model that. So I've learned that from bad leaders. I would say I've probably also learned from bad leaders that in the end, your team needs your support and not the other way around. A lot of leaders believe that they are on a pedestal, whether they would admit it or not. It's important that you're there for your team. You support your team. If your team does well, you will look good. Those are probably the two things I've learned from bad leaders myself is master your emotions and look to support, inspire your team and help them be successful.
We all have our strengths and weaknesses when we come in, and that's definitely one of my weaknesses that I've had to learn over time. I'm still trying to master my emotions. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Marcel Brunel, but really that was the first time in policing that I'd gotten introduced to formal education and heard EQ.
Mm-hmm.
Marcel, if you ever get a chance to listen to him speak, he's amazing. He's built a whole foundation on EQ and emotional regulation. It's fascinating stuff.
It is fascinating stuff when you dig into it. There's several factors that are involved with emotional intelligence, and it's not a matter of being good at it or bad at it. It's how we use the skills. We all have them, but we use them at various levels. Sometimes we don't use them in at the right time or in the right way, and that can get us into trouble. We more like you said, the more we learn about it, the more we understand ourselves, and the more self-aware we become. That makes us a better leader right there.
I like what you said about modeling the behavior because we learn so much from watching other people do good things. And of course, when you're talking about EQ, I don't think if you were just around people that had mastered EQ that you could learn anything about EQ because you're not seeing the damage that somebody who can't regulate their emotions does. So I think you almost have to experience that to be more appreciative of good EQ regulation.
I think you make a good point, and I know I've been blessed with leaders who had strong emotional intelligence, but maybe I didn't know it at the time. I know it now because I've studied it, looked back at it, and said, okay, they were doing it right.
Yeah, so sometimes I think you need to see the bad side to move yourself forward. It's just crazy how that works sometimes.
Hmm.
Do you have any examples of any mistakes or things that you did in your past that you really know the damage that it caused or the problems that it caused, and you really have this hyper focus on helping leaders get past that particular issue?
I think for me, probably the greatest issue that I've had personally as a leader over the years was work life balance. I'm the kind of person, James, who, when I'm in, I'm all in. That has done me well through the years. I don't know that I would have had the career that I've had without being all in most of the time. However, that does take a toll on your health. It takes a toll on your emotional health. can take a toll on family and relationships. It can take a toll on, any type of volunteer work you want to do or being helpful in your community. Work-life balance over the years, and not just because I've gotten older. I just think we've reached a point where even after COVID, people want to know more about work-life balance. They don't want to do what they used to do in the past and work themselves to death. It's a mistake that I made and at times continue to make. You mentioned earlier that I was the district governor for Kiwanis International in Texas and Oklahoma. Over the last year, I traveled quite a bit, went to a lot of events and different club meetings across two large states, and it took a toll on me. It took a toll on my family. You have to find that balance of all in versus I'm going to give them as much as I can while still balancing my health and my other relationships, my volunteer service, and so forth. That can be very difficult to do that. By the same token, James, that if we're spending a lot of time with family and friends and out in the community and doing the things we want to do and not working very hard, that's a problem too. We typically look at work-life balance and say, it's the life balance I need to find. That's true. But let's also keep in mind there's a work balance involved as well, where you want to be committed and passionate, love what you do, and be able to go to work every day doing what you do best. And that's research proven that that's what really motivates and inspires people. So we've got to find a balance of both. Working with a passion and inspiration to do what you love to do every day and still maintaining that quality time and effort and energy with everything outside of work as well.
What percentage of the folks that you work with would you say either are way off kilter on their work-life balance on the work side, or if they're not, maybe that's mostly because they've burned themselves out because they were hitting the midnight oil all the time?
I would say that maybe it's at least 50%, at least. I say that because those aren't always topics that come up in coaching situations. The client lays out what they want to talk about. But I would say it's 50% for sure, and probably more than that just from people who really didn't bring it up as a coaching topic. Typically runs along with talking about what's next, right? You're right. A lot work-life balance, one way or the other, is going to end up being stressful, a lot of pressure, a lot of it unnecessary pressure, and a lot of stress. And at some point, especially for someone who's been in the field for 15, 20 years, they're starting to think about what's next. I found it interesting too, James, how many clients I've had who for all these years have said, I want to be the vice president of this, or I want to be head of this department, or I want to get to the C level. By the time they come to me, they're rethinking their goal. They're starting to think about, do I really want to be the head of this department? Do I really want to be on the C level? Do I need that? And I get a lot of clients who, with what they're dealing with from a work-life perspective, their family is growing, getting older, and they're starting to think about plan B or C or D. They're starting to think about, what do I really want to do at this point? It's not always going up the corporate ladder anymore at that point. Sometimes it's, I just want to do what I like to do every day. I have a passion outside of work. How can I turn that into a business? I have an interest in something completely different in another field where I could work and make a living, but how do I do that? How do I make that transition? There's a lot of that. All of that seems to work together. I am stressed. I'm getting burned out. It's my ambitions are not what they used to be. I need to talk through how I make a transition from plan A to plan B if that's what I really want to do.
And we recently did an episode on burnout with a retired city manager, Brad Stafford, very well-renowned, likable guy. One of the things he said that made a lot of impact on me was that he felt that the pace that he was working at and doing things and being involved in all the things that you have to do as a city manager or, a department head in a city, and same thing for probably any organization, he felt like he basically cut his own career short. If you're talking to city managers or other high-placed individuals in organizations, how do you, not only for themselves, their work-life balance, but how do you express the value to looking at what work-life balance looks like for people that work for them to the organization? Obviously, if we're pushing people out because we burn them out, Those people are probably our best workers. They're just naturally driven to do a good job. How do we slow them down and make them not burn themselves out prematurely?
Boy, it's a great point because one of the things that is an absolute axiom in organizational work, I don't care if it's government work, nonprofit, Kiwanis, corporate work, is that if somebody is really good at something, we will keep giving them things until they wipe out. That's a great point. You want really good people on your team, but you also don't want to destroy them in the process. And first of all, I think a leader has to be the role model, right? They have to see you going home. They have to see you not coming in when you're not feeling well. They need to see you spending time with family. They know you're going to the elementary school for the recital tonight, so you're going to leave a little early. And they need to see that from you first. Secondly, you need to get to know your team members. I really encourage leaders, especially in a day and age after COVID, where we're more loners than we've ever been before. You need to get to know your folks. You need to know something about their family and what their family's doing, and something about their hobbies, their interests, and so forth. Why? Because you want to encourage them to take the time they need. Work from home if you need to today. Leave early if you need to make that recital. They need to be getting to know their people well enough that they can encourage them to take the time to manage that life balance. The vast majority of the time, the problem is that we're working too much and not spending enough time in life. And the more that the leader role models that and encourages people to take the time that they need, have those conversations, James. How are you doing? Our check ins oftentimes are okay, you've been working on this project. Where are we at? Okay, I gave you this task last week. Where are we at? Are you going to make the deadline on this? How are we doing budget wise on this? Great. But maybe a check in question needs to be, how are you? How are you feeling? What's bothering you? What can I do better to help you? Not just here, but outside of here. Having those kinds of human interactions and questions can do a lot for helping people to trust that you really do believe in their work-life balance and you're willing to help them with it. Those are the things I would really encourage leaders to do.
And you said trust, which is a trigger word for me. Like I always love when people use the word trust because it is so important. I think when you're talking about these check-ins, if you don't create a safe space, someplace where people feel that you're going to take in, like they can come in and say, I'm overwhelmed without there being negative repercussions. How would you encourage leaders to create that safe space? You're going to get, oh, I'm fine, even if they're not.
Yeah, and it takes time. I wish I had the magic formula that said, okay, starting tomorrow, this is how you set a safe space. If they don't trust you yet, it will take some time and they need to see it in action. I think that having those human check-ins are very important. Even scheduling a one-on-one that really has nothing to do with work or tasks, projects can be extremely helpful. I also very much encourage leaders to build trust. You've got to be credible. You've got to build your credibility. They need to see a track record from you that you say what you're going to do and you do it, that you are treating them with respect and at all times really being human beings toward them. It takes time to build that kind of trust. It takes them understanding that you do know what you're doing, that you are competent in what you're doing. It takes the time to build those interactions, but they have to be intentional interactions with people that are more human. And then when things happen, you have to allow your compassion to kick in. Give you an example. Child had to go to the ER this morning. Okay, your first question is not, well, when are you going to be in? If that's your first question, you've just knocked your trust bank account back a few $100s, all right? Your first question needs to be, what happened? How is she? And how can I help you? Those need to be your questions. If your first thought is, oh no, now what am I going to do? And when are you going to be in? Then you've got a problem with trust. Long-winded answer to your question, but it starts with, again, being a role model of competency and credibility. It's all about human interactions. human one-on-ones with people, getting to know them getting to know you. You need to be vulnerable too. You make mistakes too. Do you admit those mistakes? Do you say you're sorry? Do you apologize? All of the human things. Do you respect them for who they are? And then when things happen, you react in an emotionally intelligent, human way to say, I'm here for you. All of this can wait. You take care of what you need to do. Takes time, but it can be done if you're truly intentional about building trust.
One of the things you said was very key. Can you admit mistakes? And there's unfortunately enough people out there that I've seen that just can't fathom that they made a mistake. I kind of like to take the opposite approach. If something goes wrong, I think it's just easier to take the blame for it. If I'm in charge of, even if it's far down the line, ultimately it's my fault. It's some process, some policy, something that I didn't put in. So I just go ahead and consider that it's my fault. And then how do we fix that? I've seen a lot of people that just can't own up to a mistake. And I don't understand it, because if you're not making mistakes, I don't know, you're not human, I guess.
I'm only aware of one perfect person that ever walked the earth. None of us are perfect. And here's the thing. If you make a mistake, the likelihood is they know you made the mistake. So why not just admit that you made the mistake and get that little piece of credibility and trust currency from them, rather than not admitting it and not taking responsibility for whatever the mistake caused when you made it? Most everybody's going to know the mistake was made. So it's funny, between that and active listening, actually listening to people, I think those are probably the two skills that if more leaders just learned those. Admit when you're wrong, admit when you made a bad decision, admit when you didn't act the way you should have acted. It's okay. Apologize to people, tell them you're sorry, and so forth. If you do that and you listen to people, actively listen to people like you care, those two skills alone will make good leaders into great leaders.
I have a little bit of a problem active listening sometimes, because when people start talking, I think I know the answer to their question or their problem. Sometimes I do, but sometimes when they finish explaining it, whatever my first impression was not the right answer anyway.
A good point. See, that's a good point. Active listening, you may think you know, and that's okay, but you want to hear them out. Hearing them out does two things. First of all, it gives you the information, all the information you need to make a response. But you would be surprised how much listening, active listening, people showing us they care enough to give us their time to listen, how much respect and gratitude people have for people who listen. Because frankly, we're very self-centered creatures. Real listening doesn't really come naturally to us because we want all the attention to be on us and we think we know it all. Becoming an active listener is hard, but the more you do that, the more people believe you really care. And that's huge from a trust perspective, from a motivational perspective, from being that role model that people are looking for.
When I've actually stopped and done what I was supposed to do and listened to them, it's funny when they get done talking, they've already got the answer. They don't really need me anyway, and they solve their own problem. And the next time they don't need to come, because they know how to solve that problem now.
That is a glorious solution.
Well, some of that leads into my next question, talking about culture. How important is that culture? And if you talk to a leader that's in charge of a department or an organization and they say the culture stinks in their place, what's your advice to them?
Then let's change it. Culture change can happen. Much like building trust, it can take a little time, but it is time that is worthwhile. Culture change can be an exciting and rewarding experience, not just for you, but for your team. Start with the fact that if you as the leader think the culture is not very good, well, your team members are going home every night saying, boy, our culture really stinks. You're not going to have a problem getting buy-in. The buy-in comes from, well, why does it stink? And how do we fix that? And then going beyond how do we fix that, ask yourselves, quite honestly, what does our culture need to look like? When we talk about culture change, I've seen culture change happen. I've seen customer service culture change where you've cut your customer complaints by 50%. I've seen sales cultures change where salespeople who were just taking orders are now actually doing consulting conversations with their clients and finding out what their real needs are and selling those as well. Culture change can happen in a lot of different ways, but primarily you need to have a real honest understanding of what the culture is today and how it got to be that. A lot of organizations don't start there. A lot of teams don't start there. How did we get here? What is it really like? What do we like about the culture that we don't want to lose going forward? But what is it we don't like and how do we fix it? Having those conversations and working together as a team to build consensus on how to fix those issues, but also having that long range view of what does our culture really need to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, in order to accomplish the things, let's say in the community, that the community really needs. How do we get there? How do we build a culture that our community will be grateful for, proud of? How do we build a culture that every team member is passionate about so that people want to come work for us, so that we are an employer of choice? How do we build that type of culture? So it's a wide ranging conversation, but it's really a past, present, and future thing, James. Where are we now and why? What do we need to fix? How do we do it? And then long term, where do we really need to be? What is our better place? Everybody has an idea of what their better place is. For this team, for this organization, for this department, what is that better place and how do we build towards that?
I don't know if it's similar in the private sector and across other organizations, but in police departments, I will tell you that, of course, the chief really is the one setting the culture or should be modeling that culture like the one that they want. But the culture change or keeping the culture that you have, none of that's successful without your frontline supervisors. Police sergeants or field training officers, those are the two most important positions in any police department. It's not your police chief. They could be the greatest person in the world if they can't take their amazing vision and sell it to those people on the front lines that are training the new people and the frontline employees, then you're not going to get anywhere. So do you see that in other organizations, or is policing just unique?
Policing is unique. But having said that, yes, I've seen that across all organizations. One of the things that I always say is that you can't change culture with a memo. You can't change culture with an email. You can't change culture with the CEO saying, "Okay, this is how we're going to do things from now on." They try, right? We get everybody in a room and we give them a slogan and a mug and a cap and go forth and make this culture happen. Those who are into it will try, and those who are not into it will go back to their normal jobs, and eventually it'll all fall apart, and then they'll come back and do something else. Seen it time and time again, right? It is absolutely critical that the leader, if you truly need culture change, that you involve the people who are going to be the primary benefactors of the culture and the primary ambassadors of the culture. They must be involved in the upfront conversation about why are we here? What do we like? What do we not like? What do we need to start doing? What do we need to stop doing? They need to be out there in the solutions, working the solutions, making the tweaks as you go, and they need to be involved in that long-term vision conversation of, okay, we're doing better, but 2 years from now, where do we really want to be and how do we get there? Absolutely crucial to the leader. Here's another reason why that matters is that when the chief leaves, the culture needs to stay where it is, right? You build, build, build. Now you've got a great culture. If it's dependent on one leader, that leader is probably not going to be there forever. When the leader changes, the new leader that comes in should fit into the culture, even hired to fit into this culture rather than the culture leaving with the leader. That's critical too. The more that we build that culture, we've got to keep it. And that means that no matter who's leading, the culture remains the same.
I know most of your working experience was in the private sector, but you've worked with public sector organizations and leaders. Has anything surprised you about the differences between maybe like a CEO of a company and like a city manager of a city?
I think that, I don't know about surprise, but I think that when you're dealing with a public sector department, team, community, I think that your constituencies increase. The CEO basically has the C-level stakeholders and to some extent government regulators and the public. that they are constituencies with. When you're dealing with community organizations, there's also a lot of community organizations that care about what you do. Voters care about what you do, and you have an enormous number of customers who care about what you do. And I think the complexity is deeper in community organizations. It's difficult at times to balance. We're just going to talk about work balance at the moment, how you balance the different constituencies while dealing with budgets and regulations and everything that goes into supporting a city and probably not being paid like a CEO would be paid for supporting a city. I think there's a lot of complexity and balancing those things. You were talking about stress and burnout earlier. I can certainly understand where stress and burnout can be an issue because of all just within the work factor, all of this, all the complexities and the different constituencies that you feel like you have to make happy.
I would agree. I feel that those city managers have a lot on their plate. The health and safety of thousands of people depend on them. All that for the price of 1/10 of what a CEO might make.
Exactly. Yeah.
They must really be gluttons for punishment. I mean, I thought running a police department was difficult.
They might be. There are also people who are very passionate about community work, and bless them for it. I think that we're probably more often than not dealing with leaders who are really there for the right reasons. They want to use their skills and education and experience and competencies to help support the community from their perspective. They love the work. Doesn't mean you still can't get stress, burnout, and pressure from trying to please all the constituencies, but at least it helps to have a passion for what you're really doing.
Anybody there for the money must have taken the wrong turn somewhere, because they're doing it for the people and to put better out into the world. So I do appreciate that.
Exactly.
Can you talk to us a little bit about Kiwanis? And I know you've done some other service work outside of Kiwanis. Do you recommend that? I mean, and it adds another thing on somebody's plate, but for an executive or department head, or really anybody, like, do you recommend them looking for those opportunities? And, other than the intrinsic value of providing a service, Kiwanis is all about children, but other than doing that for the goodness of your heart, like, are there like intrinsic values outside of that for an executive?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Yes, I've been a member of Kiwanis since 2018 with the Kiwanis Club of Mansfield here in my town. I love the service. I love the mission. I love the focus on kids. And we're doing a lot of cool things, working with other nonprofits in the area and working with the independent school district here as well. I've also just recently in 2025 left the Mansfield Public Library Advisory Board, and I'm going to use that to come around to the backside of your question. I was appointed by the city council to the library board in 2009, served there until 25, was president of the board from 2016 to 25. And it gave me an amazing perspective into community work and to city government, municipal government. I am as grateful for that perspective that I saw, the inner workings of the community. I saw the folks we're talking about, right? And saw those different groups and how they worked with each other, sometimes against each other, how they had to deal with, council meetings and other constituencies. And now you have social media that you have to deal with as well. There's a lot going on there. And by being a member of the library board, I learned a lot about that through osmosis more than anything else. Very proud of the library, and it's a world-class award-winning library, and I'm very proud of that work. But a fringe benefit was learning about the government. So let me flip that coin for a second and say that you're in the government. I would encourage you to find ways to be actively involved outside of government in your community because it's going to enlarge your perspective. I could see where a CEO finds themselves in a bubble sometimes, and I can see where a city manager, administrator, department head can find themselves in a bubble at times too. I would encourage them to get involved, not just for the service aspect, I think that's very important, but just to broaden your horizon on what's going on outside of the building. I always encourage leaders, James, to be massively inclusive. And here's what I mean by that, because inclusive sometimes has a connotation that's really too narrow. When I say inclusive, I mean you should be listening to all perspectives. You should be talking to a lot of different folks in a lot of different occupations and a lot of different environments. You need to be getting viewpoints from a lot of people. Get outside of the bubble. That's what massively inclusive means. It means that you are stretching your mind out beyond what you're already thinking and getting different perspectives from different people all the time. I really encourage people to get involved, whether that's a service organization, a nonprofit board, whether it's your place of worship, whatever it may be, you need to be doing some of those things. Yes, you're right. Does it add something to your plate? It does. But the rewards can be outstanding, and the different perspective that you get can really motivate you more as a leader.
Was there anything that you learned as governor leading volunteer groups that might have been different than how you would lead people that are being paid to do a job?
Well, you hit on the most important difference, and that is it is more difficult working with volunteers than it is with paid, because with paid, you are the boss. you you at least have that tool in your toolbox. With volunteers, it can be a little different. However, how you motivate people is pretty much the same regardless of paid or non-paid. How you motivate people and understand what motivates them, okay? What is it that drives them to do what they do? In volunteer work, that's sometimes pretty easy to come by. They're doing this work in this organization because they really believe in this mission and this activity for this audience. Building upon that and stoking that passion that people have for what they're doing, by and large, is going to help a volunteer group leader to get the most from the folks who are there. You want to really dig into their passion and their self motivation to be a part of this. However, I think the same is true for the paid worker as well. You want to motivate by giving them the respect and the human interaction and understanding what makes them tick as well. But with the volunteer group, and I'll tell you, James, every Kiwanis club I visited was different. Every Kiwanis club in Texas and Oklahoma, which are very big states, their personalities were different. They had different traditions, different quirks. Every club had Kiwanians in it who are just committed to the mission of helping change their community one child at a time. And that's what you build on. That's the motivate. That's the common ground that you have. And you want to build upon that. And a paid leader can do the same. Build upon the passions that your team has and build upon what it is that motivates them. People are people.
The paycheck's a good motivator, but especially in the public sector, that's not really what attracted people. Like I didn't even know how much I was going to get paid when I took my first policing job.
There you go. Exactly. You wanted to do that. I tell people all the time, there's research year after year after year. If you ask top leaders what motivates people, by and large, they say money. If you ask the people what motivates them, money is lower on the list. They want to make an impact. They want to build a career. They want appreciation. They want respect. They want to take care of their family. Maybe it's the benefits that are more important than the paycheck. So it's different motivations. Sometimes we have this perspective it's all about the money. For some, it is. For some, it definitely is. But for most people, it's about appreciation, respect. I want to make an impact and take care of my own.
When you do intake on a prospective client, is there one or two things that you find common across a lot of those phone calls that spur somebody to call you?
I think that it helps if they understand what coaching is. I always like to talk about how it's different than something. Coaching is not training, and I'm happy to train. I do workshops and that sort of thing. I love training. I did training for 25 years. But coaching is not training. Training is I'm going to bring you here and we're going to talk, and you're going to get some skills and you're going to go do it. Coaching is more about taking folks where they are today and exploring what they want to do differently, what needs to be different, and how do we work together to help them make progress toward where they want to be. It's so client centered. I think that if I get into a coaching session for an hour and the client talked 90% of the time. That's a great coaching session because they are taking that time outside of the noise and they are exploring in their own mind what their options are, what their thoughts are, their ideas are, what their problems are, and coming to solutions. Much like you said a moment ago about how sometimes if you really listen well enough, people will come to their own conclusions. There's a lot of that in coaching. Coaching is not mentoring. Mentoring is where, okay, I've been where you are. Let me tell you what I did. It can come up like that from time to time, but coaching is not mentoring. I've done mentoring programs, and I think mentoring programs are fantastic in any organization. But coaching is more about, I want to hear your experience. What have you done in the past that was a lot like this? And what lessons did you learn then that you can apply now to help you get to where you want to be? Very different dynamic there. When we talk about, do I talk to a potential client? I really try to emphasize this is going to be 45 minutes, 60 minutes away from the whirlwind where I will help you explore your options, give you a chance to talk through your challenges, your problems, your concerns. You can even rant if you've had a bad morning. That's fine with me. It's all confidential. And then let's build a plan to make things better. I can help you do that. And it becomes more intentional than just, boy, I wish I was in a better situation, or boy, I wish my team would do this, or boy, I wish I knew what was next. Let's talk about that. Let's get intentional about it.
Do you ever get those light bulb moments when a client just switches everything on and they've figured out 90% of their problems?
It is the most rewarding moment that a coach can have. The aha moment where the light comes on and they're like, well, okay, there's two. One is when they say, "Oh, that's a great question." And they even can't answer it for a moment, right? They've got to think about it. That's one. And then that aha moment of, well, wait a minute. Why couldn't I do this? And suddenly the door is open to a different way of looking at things. So much of what we do every day, James, is based on our map of the world. We have this map of the world that's been built from almost the day we were born to where we are today. And when you can get someone to look at the world a little differently outside of that map that they are working from day after day, that is a rewarding, exciting moment that coaches just dream of, look forward to.
Before we wrap up, I'll just ask a couple quick questions for you. Any trait that we haven't already talked about, active listening and trust being the two biggest ones, and then work-life balance, but any other trait that a high performer must develop?
I'm very big on learning your strengths and leaning into your strengths. You mentioned at the top that I'm certified in the Clifton Strengths Assessment from Gallup. This is something, James, that I have been working with for 20 years, long before there was a Clifton Strengths Assessment. The idea that we tend to focus our own development on the things we don't do well, when all the research shows that if we focus on the things we do really well and make those the very best that we can manage the things that we're not necessarily as good at, but we will bring the most value to the community, to the organization by being the best that we can at our strengths and top talents. So lean into your strengths, learn what they are, and lean into those. Put yourself in positions to where you can, whether it's at work or at home, where you can utilize your strengths as much as you can. I think that's really important, along with, as I said, mastering your emotions and listening well, building that trust and credibility. That work-life balance is critical. If you can do those things and you come to work with a passion every day, you're going to motivate and inspire your team and others to do well.
And one more, any common blind spots amongst your clients?
I would say that the most common blind spot is the idea that they can't change this. When we really get sometimes to a point where coaching becomes essential is when we've reached the point where we're just, our hands are in the air. I'm stressed, I'm burnt out, I'm working all the time, don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, and boss doesn't seem to care, and blah, 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 blah. And you reach a point where you think, how can I change this? And the change is possible. We just need to explore it. We just need to get away from the thought patterns we have today and begin to think differently. That's where coaching is absolutely critical, James, is in allowing people through the kinds of coaching and questions and things that we ask to get people to open up and think differently and find out, yes, that's the aha moment. Yes, this can change. And I think I know how I can do it. And now I'm excited again. And sometimes that's half the battle is just, ooh, I think this can change and I'm excited to do so. Is probably the greatest blind spot. But I'll say this too, James. Most of us are harder on ourselves than other people are. I would say that's a common blind spot for clients as well. Don't be so hard on yourself. Put yourself in a position where you can learn a different way of thinking and build upon your talents and your experiences and your competencies, and let's go to a better place together. You are who you are, and you're doing great. We just want to make things better. And so I think if people will look at that way, I think that's extremely helpful as well.
I like leaving on a positive note, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bobby, before we get off, how would people get in touch with you if they were looking for coaching or training?
Find me at LinkedIn to learn more about me that way, or you can email me at bobby@toabetterplace.net.
Awesome. And we'll put all that in the show notes. If you don't want to write it down while you're driving around, please don't. Just later look at the show notes. It'll all be in there.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Bobby. We appreciate your time here with us and passing on some vital information to our listeners. To the listeners, we appreciate your time listening to the show. Please check out clearcareerpro.com and find our current job openings. I know we've got CFO of Odessa still posted, and there are several that are coming up. So please keep an eye on that, but there's like 4 or 5 coming up pretty soon. Like and follow us on all the social medias and subscribe to the podcast, and we will catch you next time.